Hello. Okay, today I'm gonna make a vlog. It's gonna be something along the lines of life crises, whatever you want to call it. You just go ahead and do that. Um, One thing I've learned in my years on planet Earth, is that you're not gonna be able to control things that other people do. Um, if you get in a fight with a friend or a family member, you can't control how they're going to react to things you say, to things you do. You don't know how they're going to take it, and you can't control it, and you're just going to have to, let it go because honestly, you know, life really does do everything for a reason. No matter how negative the thing, something positive will come out of it eventually. Like, I had a really long, not really long, a friendship with someone for a while, and I told her lots about myself, and those things turned against me when we started getting in fights a lot, and we got in fights more and more, and eventually we just stopped being friends. But one thing I noticed while we were fighting is that I really couldn't understand the way she would interpret things I said. Things that don't even something like, especially over texting and social media, saying something over a message board, um, you don't have tone in your voice when you're speaking that, and it can really affect how the person on the other end takes it. Because like, if I say something without attitude at all on the other end, because you're in a fight, unless you say I'm completely calm, which you don't usually do, the person can take it completely different, like you're yelling at them. And so that's why you really just need to be careful with your words in life, is because you really just don't know how other people are going to take them, and you can't control how they take them. No matter how many times you say you're sorry, you've put it out there and you've said what you wanted to say in the first place, which is a lot of times when you're saying something mean, it's usually in the heat of the moment. So next time you're texting someone in an angry fight, you might want, before you send a text, you might want to sit there for about half an hour and just read it over and over again, and literally just think about how different ways that they could interpret it, and edit it so that eventually it's something not mean, and it's something that they will take very reasonably, and you can continue, because it sucks losing a friend. It really does, and I've had it many times, and it's something you can't control. So that's one thing, that you can't control how other people are going to take it. The next thing I want to say about learning in my years is, I mentioned this, but really, life does work in really mysterious ways. You don't have to be a religious person to know that things on Earth can be hell or not. You can have some terrible things one day, and the next day you're happy, just as happy as like a duck. It really does. Whatever God you believe in, if you don't believe in a God, it doesn't matter, because things in life itself, no matter who you think is doing it, quote unquote, doing it to you, they work in mysterious ways. You really can't tell what's gonna happen next. I actually am an okay writer. Everyone thinks I'm very good, but I don't know. I wrote something, and it's called "Don't Let It," and I'll read it to you. And it said, "Knowing life, I know that it can be at times unpredictable. It has strange ways, and at times you can't see that in the end it helps. For way too long I felt as though life was intentionally hurting me, but it was me who was hurting myself. It all depends on how you look at it, at the little or sometimes big nudges it gives you. Get a new perspective and think. Is it for you or against you? Don't let it make you feel worthless. And I feel as though that's really true. That is a poem from me that's coming from the heart, because, you really can't control at all what life is going to do, but when it hits you with it, you have to get a way to look at it on how it can be a positive outcome and how you can make it a positive outcome. If there's a death in your family, you really have to look at how that is actually going to either tear apart the rest of your family or bring it closer. You decide that on your own. Life gives you scenarios where you're going to have to make up your mind, and you can either hurt yourself or, make yourself feel on top of the world with it, because, you just have to really look at it for a little while and think, what can I do to make this a positive outcome? And I think that's really important to do in life, because otherwise, if you just let life give you something and blame it for the bad outcome, I feel as though you can't do that, because no matter what life throws at you, you're the one that decides if it's good or bad. I can think of many scenarios where, something terrible happens, and you know what, you can't control it, but then you really have to look at it and just think, is it something I can do to make better, or is it something I'm just going to sit and grieve over? Because, I feel if you grieve, you're going to grieve for the rest of your life, and that's just a terrible feeling. So that's that. Okay, so last thing I really want to talk about in life. I did write another poem. It kind of goes with the other one, but this is not. This is like something to go with the last one. I will still have another one after this, actually. So this one is called "You're in Control." And it reads, "Don't let fear rule you. Stick up for what and who you are. Never grieve on the things that once hurt you, and never forget the things that once made you very happy. Love doesn't exist and faith is not real. You can control the path ahead of you, and only you, and how you walk down it." Questions I've had on that poem are, love isn't real and faith does not exist. That's I could word that differently, because I don't mean that literally. Love does exist and faith is real, but it's not in this scenario. Love isn't going to help you through this. You have to do it. Faith could actually hurt you in the end. It's like love and faith are out of the picture in this. You are the one that makes the decision, and that's what that means in this poem. So, last thing I want to talk about is, in life, when, so in life, wording it, this is gonna be maybe a problem. Okay. This reason is mostly towards kids my age, which is actually fortunate, because teenagers and kids are mostly the ones on YouTube. There are lots of adults, don't get me wrong, but majority of kids on YouTube are teens, preteens, stuff like that. So one thing I do want to talk about is you can't let things interact with your future. Drama in school, especially for girls, drama at school at my age, you can't let that affect your academics, because your academics are going to provide your future. Don't get me wrong, it's important to keep friends and have a social life, but if you are having a big problem with a friend, you need to divide that you need to have individual times of day or thoughts for academics and your social life. This also kind of goes for adults, but you're probably not going to be listening to me. You need to divide two lives, if you have children, between children and work. You can't let your work get involved with how you treat your children. You can't let stress get to you and affect how much you yell at your children or how much stress you put on their shoulders to maybe take off, because it doesn't work like that. In life, you need to figure out if something's really affecting something else in life. You need to figure out what the core of that is, and you need to divide those two things, and you can't let them mesh together, otherwise it'll have an even worse outcome than it did before. Another scenario is if you're really, really angry, you call the term kicking the dog, is if you're angry with someone in life, you can't take it out on other people. Even if it's the heat of the moment, you need to really just be in your brain and think about it. Like, divide them. I'm angry with this. Does that mean I'm really that angry that the dog is jumpy tonight? Like, you can't take one thing out on the other. You need to be able to separate those things in life and really just give thought to it, because otherwise it can create really bad relationships later in life. I know that if you and your mother, this is kind of a little different scenario, but it's still the same logic. If you and your mother have this terrible relationship as a child and a mom, where your mom yells at you, you yell back, you are a kid and you are pushing her away, you're actually physically hurting, maybe sometimes mentally hurting, later in life that can also affect you in relationships with things like boys or another person, that can lead to really abusive relationships later in life. You can start to yell at other people, and really it's actually relating back to your childhood, where you're basically using the same habits that you did, and that's a little different because you're using it over a very long period of time, a very long span. But it's still the same rule, because you really need to divide those relationships from each other. Are you really, would you really hurt them in the first place if you were yourself again as a kid? Would you have hurt them if you and your mom didn't have this relationship? It's all cause and effect, and you really just need to think about that. And that's something else I've learned. And so basically that's going to conclude this vlog for tonight. I really did want to talk about that because I feel as though there are going to be a lot of things thrown at you in life, and maybe this can help you with some of them, because I know that a lot of these things have been thrown at me and I've had to catch them, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But really, it's no different. If you have depression, you can look at things this way. If you're not depressed, you don't have to look at them this way. It's really just, it's a give and take between everything in life, and you really just need to figure out how you're going to look at everything and get new perspectives sometimes if things are really blurry. So yeah, that's basically going to conclude my vlog for today. I hope you guys maybe got something out of this. If you didn't, I'm really sorry that this was probably a big waste of time for you. If you knew these things in the back of your mind but didn't use them, maybe that brought them up front and you can fix some relationships. Maybe you can move on between things. And just one thing to remember is don't grieve over things right now. And you can't look at things in the past, and you can't look at things in the future. You can only look at right now. And I learned some of this stuff from my dad. He is really good at separating the future, the past, and right now, what's ahead of us and what we can do to fix it right now and not look so much ahead. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys later. You're like, hey, let me get that. But
when I text, you don't text back. No, you didn't, cause you didn't care.